Welcome to today's video where we're going to get into a scenario most people find too unsettling to imagine. Picture this. You're at home and suddenly the power goes out. You glance at your phone, but there's no service. You check your data or Wi-Fi and it's non-existent. Initially, you might think it's just a random outage. But then you hear commotion outside. Maybe some distant shouting, maybe sirens cutting in and out. Your neighbors start wandering into the street, trying to get answers, trying to call 911. But no one's picking up. Then comes the realization. This isn't just a local blackout. Something big has happened. In our conversation today, I'm combining three disastrous events that might unfold all at once. A total grid-down infrastructure collapse triggered by cyber attacks or sabotage, large-scale civil unrest as people panic and law enforcement gets overwhelmed, and an external threat, like foreign infiltration or direct attacks on home soil, that compounds the chaos. Under these circumstances, help won't be coming anytime soon, and society as we know it will unravel faster than you'd believe. If you don't know exactly what to do, you risk becoming a victim within the first few days. Right after I explain just how bad this can get, I want to invite you to stay tuned till the end of the video for more advanced tips and strategies you won't want to miss. And be sure to check out the tagged products I've listed in this video, because I've handpicked some crucial gear and resources that can make a real difference if you ever face a situation like this. Now let's jump right into it, because we have a lot to cover on surviving a perfect storm of power grid failure, riots, and possible foreign occupation. I want to kick off our survival strategy by talking about something that happens long before the crisis unfolds. In prepping circles, we often call it Phase 0, your baseline of readiness. The fact is, by the time you see mass looting on the news or foreign troops rumored to be on the ground, it's already too late to do your essential preparations. What you do months or even years in advance can determine whether you're able to remain safe and well supplied during the worst of the chaos. One of the first things I advise is to get a sense of your local environment. Do you live near critical infrastructure? Large cities are prime targets during a power grid shutdown because high populations multiply the potential for chaos. Oil refineries, power stations, major ports, and key highways are magnets for sabotage and looting. If you're close to these, you should already have a plan for hunkering down or bugging out. You also want to keep a low profile. I tell people never brag about your preps. If your neighbors know you have a generator, 100 gallons of water, and an entire garage filled with food, you'll become a target the moment folks are desperate. Instead, keep it all discreet. When I say discreet, I mean you could be reinforcing your door frames with extra long screws right now. You could be storing water in your basement. You could even be applying shatter-resistant film to your windows in a way that doesn't catch the eye. It's normal to make minor home improvements, so do those quietly. While you're at it, think about communications. When the grid goes down, we lose more than electricity. We also lose phone service, internet, electronic payment systems, and more. Having simple two-way radios that operate on common frequencies can help you stay in contact with family or close neighbors. If you have the training, a ham radio setup might let you get vital intel from miles or states away. But again, keep that gear off people's radar if possible. Speaking of radars, let's address your stockpiles. The best way to handle a long-term crisis is to build a layered food supply. Some short-term items like canned soup, pasta, or cereals, and longer-lasting items like dehydrated meals, freeze-dried entrees, and large buckets of rice or beans. Don't forget variety like seasoning packets, honey, peanut butter, or protein bars. It's easy to focus on core staples but end up hating your food after 3 days. Morale matters, and if you can keep some normalcy in your meals, it helps everyone cope. The same applies to water. If the pumps fail, either from lack of power or sabotage, municipal water can vanish instantly. That's why I recommend at least a few 55-gallon drums in your basement or garage. If space is tight, look for stackable containers. You can also invest in a solid filtration system, something you can rely on for months without electricity if you need to gather water from questionable sources. This is all about being prepared without flaunting it. Don't let your yard scream prepper compound. Keep it looking average. Reinforce from within, hide your supplies behind false panels, bury caches if you have to, but remain an uninteresting target at first glance. Now let's jump into what I'm calling Phase 1. This covers the moment the lights go out and the realization sets in that life has changed overnight. A cyber attack, for instance, could knock the entire grid offline with terrifying speed. You might see immediate panic at convenience stores, gas stations, and banks. People are trying to get money out, hoard gas, empty the grocery shelves. Within hours, every inch of the city can become chaotic. Combine that with a breakdown of phone communications and it's a recipe for mass confusion. In the first day, you want to accomplish certain things quickly and quietly. The first is to bring your loved ones home. Make sure everyone knows if they can't reach you by phone, they should head straight to the house via pre-planned back roads. Highways and main streets often clog with traffic, accidents, or even armed groups. A lot of folks get stuck in those gridlocks thinking it'll clear. Instead, they end up sitting ducks if the unrest ramps up around them. The second priority is locking down your own home. If you do have a generator, decide if you can run it discreetly. The last thing you want is an engine roar advertising that you have power while the rest of the street is pitch black. At most, you might power a freezer for a short burst to keep your meat from spoiling, then shut it down. Blackout curtains or heavy blankets over your windows prevent light leaks. Without them, your lit-up living room basically says, "Come here, we have resources." Next, fill any containers you can with water, assuming you still have a bit of running water left in the pipes. Your bathtub, your big soup pots, even a bucket can give you extra buffer. Then keep the rest of your supplies out of sight. If a neighbor stops by to ask if you have extra water or bread, you can't appear too flush with resources. It's a tragic situation, but in a full collapse, word travels fast that you're stocked. Another concern in this first 24 hours is the sudden outbreak of civil unrest. If you live in or near a city, you might hear gunshots, sirens that don't seem to stop, or large groups of people roaming. Stores get looted almost immediately, especially places like pharmacies, grocery chains, liquor stores, and firearm retailers. So if you didn't buy last-minute items before the crisis, it's probably safer to stay put unless you're absolutely desperate. Heading out after the looting starts is like stepping into a hornet's nest. There's also the question of a foreign threat. Maybe your radio picks up rumors about sabotage teams moving through the area or about infiltration units near power plants. You might see unfamiliar armed vehicles or uniforms. My advice is, don't try to investigate this on your own. Keep to your safe space. If an organized force is hostile, you won't stand a chance picking a fight alone. Your best strategy is to stay below the radar, gather intel quietly, and wait to see how widespread the danger is. After the first day, panic shifts into desperation. That's when people realize power isn't coming back quickly. Law enforcement is stretched to the breaking point, and those who didn't prepare can't find food or water. Looting spreads outward from city centers. Suddenly, suburban neighborhoods and even rural areas might get waves of scavengers looking for easy scores. And if we factor in that foreign infiltration or direct attacks continue, there can be confusion on multiple fronts. This is where fortifications you did in Phase 0 matter a lot. You might have used extra long screws in your door frames, installed a deadbolt reinforcement plate, or quietly placed security film on your windows. Such things aren't obvious from the outside, but they make a huge difference in buying you time if someone tries to break in. Now you might feel the need to barricade from the inside. If you have solid furniture or wooden planks that can brace against a door, that can slow down a forced entry drastically. But still keep in mind, you don't want to appear obviously fortified from the street if you can avoid it. If you must barricade windows, do it from the inside. It's also wise to designate a fallback room, a closet or storage space deeper in your home where you can retreat if intruders still manage to get inside. There's a tactic some folks use to fake the look of an already ransacked house. They'll leave some trash or scattered debris on the porch, maybe slightly open the front door. This can trick opportunistic looters into thinking it's already been stripped bare. That said, you have to weigh the risk because an open door might also invite the curious. If you go this route, make sure you can quickly secure it from the inside. If you absolutely need to travel your streets, do so with extreme caution. Gangs or armed militias might set up checkpoints. Panicked citizens could block roads as well. You should wear inconspicuous clothing, nothing tactical looking that screams you're loaded with supplies. Keep a low profile. Be ready to answer a few questions vaguely if confronted, and try to avoid revealing where you live or what you're carrying. A small trade item can sometimes diffuse tension. Something minor, like an extra bottle of water or a snack, might help you slip through without conflict. At this stage, if you have supportive neighbors, consider setting up a watch system. Even two people taking shifts can watch the street from an upstairs window, noting any suspicious patterns unfamiliar vehicles, or groups. And if you have a two-way radio, keep transmissions short and coded. You never know who might be scanning for valuable intel. The less you say in plain language, the better. Medical situations become a real threat now because hospitals are likely overwhelmed or inoperative. A well-stocked first aid kit doesn't just mean bandages. You might need a tourniquet, sterile gauze, antiseptics, and antibiotics if you can manage to get them. Knowing how to manage a gunshot wound or a deep laceration can save a life when no ambulance will be coming. And watch out for new sanitation issues. Trash pickup will have stopped. Water treatment might be down, so disease can spread faster than many people realize. At around 3 days in, we enter a state of total breakdown. Power is still out, store shelves are stripped, chaos is entrenched. Criminal elements or even foreign paramilitaries might be operating openly. You'll hear rumors of entire neighborhoods under the thumb of armed gangs or foreign forces. This kind of occupation changes the game. One crucial habit now is limiting your visibility. If you have to cook, try to do it during daylight so cooking smells don't drift far at night. Keep your window shades drawn. If you have to communicate via radio, use quick bursts. If you're being monitored by a well-equipped adversary, they could triangulate your signal. At this point, some areas might be under martial law, either declared by remnants of local government or forcibly imposed by an outside power. Occupying troops might knock on doors, confiscating weapons and essential supplies under the guise of maintaining order. This is where having hidden compartments in your home matters immensely. You can maintain a low-end weapon or minimal supplies in plain sight, giving them the impression that you're nearly out, while your real stockpile remains hidden behind walls, under floors, or in cached containers elsewhere. If you do get confronted, it pays to appear non-threatening. Being openly defiant or heavily armed could escalate into a lethal confrontation. On the other hand, total compliance might risk losing everything you've stored. So you often walk a fine line. Appear cooperative enough not to raise alarms, but be careful that they don't suspect you're hiding more. Some neighborhoods might form genuine community defense networks, setting barricades in the streets, controlling who enters, and rotating armed patrols. These can be lifesavers, but they can also bring more attention, especially if foreign forces or large gangs decide that neighborhood has resources. If you're part of such a group, focus on coordination and a fair system of rules. Disputes within the group can lead to disastrous splits that make everyone vulnerable. If you find yourself or your group in direct conflict with an occupying force or large criminal element, you might need guerrilla-style tactics. That can include simple early warning traps in back alleys, tripline alarms in your yard, or even small obstacles that channel intruders where you want them to go. Of course, it's safer to avoid a firefight unless there's no alternative. Any open combat might draw in reinforcements. Always have an escape plan if you must retreat from your primary residence. Pre-pack a bag with crucial documents, meds, and a few days of rations in case your home is compromised. A week can pass with no resolution in sight. If your home and supplies are intact, you're doing better than many. But you may need to plan for weeks or months without normal infrastructure. At this stage, you're essentially living off-grid within a chaotic environment. Water is life. If you set up a rainwater collection system before everything collapsed, that can be a huge advantage. Even a simple gutter that feeds into plastic barrels or a large trash can can yield enough water for drinking and hygiene if you filter or boil it. If there's a well on your property, a manual pump is invaluable. Remember that any water you gather, especially from questionable sources, must be purified through boiling, chemical treatment, or a filtration system you trust. Food is the next challenge. If you have any yard space, you could try a container garden with quick-growing vegetables like lettuce or spinach. Don't expect a full harvest overnight, but even small yields can boost morale. Chickens or rabbits might be an option for a protein source if you can keep them discreet and protected. Just be aware a chicken's clucking can draw attention, so think about how to reduce noise. For energy, solar chargers can be a lifesaver for keeping radios and flashlights operational. If you have a small panel array, position it where it's not visible from the street. Candlelight is risky at night, but a small candle in a windowless room could be enough for basic tasks without telegraphing your presence. If you have the resources, building a pedal-powered generator using a stationary bike is an interesting option, though obviously labor-intensive. Hygiene is no joke in a long crisis. If trash pickup is halted, it piles up quickly. That invites pests and disease. Keep your waste in sealed bags or bury it if possible, well away from your home. For human waste, Dig a small latrine pit if you can and cover each use with ash or lime. It's not pleasant, but it's better than contaminating your living area. Maintaining a bit of normalcy, like a daily chore schedule, can help psychologically. Rotate tasks so nobody burns out on a single responsibility. Morale is important. Share small comforts if you have them, like instant coffee or tea. Save a little sugar or candy for special moments. These small things can significantly ease tension in a group. All the physical preps in the world won't matter if you panic or make reckless decisions under stress. Adopting a flexible and calm mindset is critical. In a multi-threat scenario, you can't just run around trying to fight every battle. Pick and choose. Sometimes the best move is to stay hidden, especially if there's a large or well-trained adversary. If it's a smaller group of looters, your fortifications and readiness might scare them off or repel an intrusion. But if you're up against an occupying force that's heavily armed, defiance will likely end badly. In that situation, discreetly hiding your core resources might allow you to appear harmless. It also helps to maintain structure within your household or group. Simple routines, waking up at a certain time, having designated lookout periods, and sharing responsibilities, help keep everyone focused. When people are idle and anxious, they dwell on fears, and that can lead to impulsive or irrational behavior. Stress management can be as basic as taking deep breaths when you feel adrenaline surging, or talking out your concerns with someone you trust. Encourage others to express what they're feeling so it doesn't build up into conflict. You'd be amazed how even a small spark of normalcy, like reading a page from a favorite book, or listening to a soothing piece of music on a small battery-powered device, can ground you when you're surrounded by chaos. That said, always balance relaxation with vigilance. Too much complacency can leave you vulnerable if you drop your guard at the wrong time. We've traveled through this scenario step by step, starting from the quiet, steady readiness that can save your life when the grid goes down, all the way through the first frantic hours of panic, the second wave of desperation and violence, and the eventual possibility of living for weeks or months under occupation. It's never a pretty picture, but understanding it all is the key to being prepared. At the end of the day, survival is more than just stockpiling supplies. It's about crafting your environment to look unassuming, building strong relationships with a small number of reliable neighbors, and learning to adapt to a constantly shifting threat landscape. Maybe foreign forces are behind the sabotage. Maybe it's domestic terrorism. Maybe it's a chain reaction of economic collapse and civil unrest. The specifics can vary, but your preparedness mindset remains the same. Remain calm, remain flexible, and keep yourself and your loved ones one step ahead of the chaos. This is why it's so vital to act now, when times are relatively stable. Before any sign of crisis, reinforce your doors and windows. Build those hidden caches, set up water storage, and gather the know-how to deal with injuries or diseases when no hospital is there to help. That's how you survive and even help your small circle weather the storm. If you appreciated these insights, I invite you to check out the tagged products I've included in this video. I've personally selected gear that I trust to work in these worst-case scenarios, whether it's for water filtration, off-grid power solutions, or advanced first aid kits. Make sure you look into them if you want to strengthen your own prepping plan. I also encourage you to keep learning and practicing. Adapt your plan, test your gear, and don't just assume you'll figure it out on the fly. Develop that mental muscle memory now so you don't freeze up when the pressure's on. And if you found this content helpful, spread the word. Let others know there are practical steps they can take, whether that's friends, family members, or anyone you think needs a nudge toward readiness. In a situation as dire as a multi-pronged collapse, where the grid is down, civil unrest is at a fever pitch, and external forces threaten our very borders. Merely surviving those first few days is a significant hurdle. Yet the ultimate goal is learning how to evolve beyond survival, how to maintain a semblance of community, and how to stand strong in a world that's turned upside down. Thank you for watching. Stay safe out there, stay prepared, and always remember that if you're serious about protecting the people you love, the time to act is yesterday. Keep your eyes open for the next video, where we'll dive even deeper into advanced defensive tactics and resource management in crisis situations. Until then, I wish you resilience, clarity of mind, and the readiness to face whatever comes next. Don't forget to check out those tagged products, and I'll catch you again soon.